Hello, how's it going? My name is Fraser. I'm, well, a music producer as well as a DJ, at times. I specialize in French inspired or French house inspired dance music, so I guess just, funky house music. So I thought I'd just kind of ramble on here and do a kind of makeshift semi couch podcast. I just feel like rambling. That's just what I feel like doing. And I thought it would be very interesting to, put a prompt into ChatGPT and utilize AI to pick a topic, to kind of guide me as to where I should go in this conversation with myself, which, if it wasn't recorded, would be considered mentally ill, which is hilarious. Okay. So, I put in the prompt to ChatGPT. It gives me a couple options here, which we're going to discuss about. So, number 1, your origin story. Number 2, the beauty of sampling. Interesting. Number 3, French house and why it still slaps. That's a good one. 4, letting go of making it. Very true. Number 5, the corniness of gatekeeping. Interesting. I might have some things to say about that. Number 6, being both DIY and professionally trained. Okay. Number 7, DJing in the age of algorithms. That is a very good one. Number 8, tools versus taste. Okay. 9, humor and not taking yourself too seriously. Oh, it's just breaking down my prompt, and I was giving it context as to what I think I am, right? And of course, people change. Okay, so 10, what keeps you going? Beauty. Well, let's give it a go. Okay, starting off with number 1. Okay, how did you get started in 2011? So in 2011, I was always into electronic music. There's, of course, Discovery by Daft Punk. There's everything on Ed Banger Records. Lamb's Anger is one of my absolute favorite albums by Mr. Wiseau. But I didn't really think too much about how that music was made. I always, I played the guitar, I played the piano, drums, I tried to sing, and I was doing things like that. Not recording anything, not really thinking too much about that. And then this song came out, and I know you guys know this one. It's a very popular song. I might get memed on this, but Avicii Levels is actually the one track that actually lit a fire under my ass to go into Google and search, how do you make electronic music? So that's how that started. And of course, you can Deadmau5's Strobe or Ghost and stuff. Terrific tracks. Okay, so the transition from self-taught to professionally trained. Well, I started off just downloading FL Studio. It was a great beginner DAW. I still have a lot of respect for that DAW. There's tons you can do. So, started off with FL Studio, and I just continued on doing it, working on beats, figuring out what things meant. There was a time I was doing electronic music, and I didn't know what sidechaining was. I remember sending a demo. I don't exactly remember who it was. I sent a demo to another producer who I really admired on these Facebook community groups, just to see what he thought about it. And of course, look, in hindsight, it's not a good demo. And he goes, it sounds like everything is conflicting with the kick drum. Are you sidechaining it? To which I responded, what sidechain? And then he just goes, oh, well, just Google it. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. So I Googled it, and on down the rabbit hole I went, learning all of these industry terminologies and things like this. So eventually I went into school for business management, and I took open studies at one point. I did Greek and Roman mythology, sociology, psychology, they're all very interesting, but deep down I always wanted to do music, I always did that. I couldn't tell you, I'm still the same to this day. I've been doing this for 14 years. So yeah, like the amount of all-nighters I've spent like just working on stuff, even if it's crap, okay? So I was grinding up until around 2019, and I went to school, which was a 2-year diploma program condensed into 9 months. So it was pretty heavy stuff. And so I did that, got my diploma in audio engineering or audio recording technology. And it was kind of a blessing in disguise because I began to realize, I have a lot of respect for people who like to record and for people who like to, work professionally in this industry, but it's very tough to train that artist mind out of me, So I'm not very passionate in recording other people's music. I'm very passionate in, maybe giving advice on how to mix things, but I'm not passionate about recording somebody's music and doing session work like that, right? Production work, which some people might think I'm crazy, but not everyone's journey is the same, okay? So I'm happily doing whatever on the side, whether it be something has nothing to do with music, as long as I have free time to work on music in my spare time, So I can do that. Where's I going here? Sorry. Anyway, I think you get the overall idea. I'm just doing my own thing, man. Okay. So moments he realized, yeah, this is my thing. I don't know. I think, when the clock right after school, I'd get home and 3 or 4 o'clock would turn to 11 p.m. From my perception, within 15 minutes, the day just went by. I think this is kind of funny. Within the past 2 years, I began to realize, yeah, this is my thing. Okay, number 2, the beauty of sampling. Why would you gravitate towards samples? Or why did I gravitate towards samples? Funny enough is it can be considered a controversial topic. Sorry, I'm kind of moving around a bit too much. Initially, I didn't use samples apart from drum samples, the typical producer or electronic better music producer spiel, I suppose. And I gravitated towards original MIDI work. Of course, I'm not a sound engineer. I'm trained in audio engineering and things like this. In sound design, I know it enough to make basic sounds I want. But me, I'm a very impatient person, meaning especially only when it comes to my work. So if I have an idea, I want to get that idea completely easy to understand and easy to comprehend. Like, okay, this is the idea. So I'm not going to spend 10 to 15 minutes patching out a synth patch when I could just throw on a preset I know sounds good and then move on. Later on, if I want to make the decision to, create original sounds, then, I might invest into the time to do that. But honestly, it doesn't matter. I'm there for the idea. I'm just there for fun. I don't think you're any less of a producer because you use presets. So samples is, I've always wanted to use samples. My biggest heroes, Justice, Daft Punk, some of Cassius, Fatboy Slim, guys like that, they really utilized sample work, and it's very, very important to the genre. Okay. So that is one of the most, that is one of the reasons why. And it's so fun. It's really fun because you could tell when a sample's chopped, and it's so beautiful. I love it when people use the same samples and they create their own version out of it. It's magical. Okay. It's just a beautiful thing. So, favorite sample flips you've done or admired? That's a tough one. Technically I like them all, right? My favorite so far that I've been really enjoying is, well, I guess most recently would be that Moose T flip I did of Horny. That's a really good one. Not my version. I just mean that's a very good sample, you know? So I didn't change too much about it. I just wanted to make my own version of it that I would mix. That's how I go into these things, okay? Like, so when I do flips and things, and some people may think, oh, he didn't do much at all on it, which is true. You know, of course, there's different processing things I've done. But really all it comes down to is I'm making an edit that I would play, you know, my own personal flip of my favorite music. So going into the Fraser project, my whole goal was to create music that I would play as well as what other DJs would play. Because I've had multiple projects that, you know, I've enjoyed and, you know, I still love and cherish, and, you know, those were good experiences, but I never played my own music. And I always had a problem with that because, you know, it's almost like I was trying to be something that I wasn't meant for. Okay. So the culture of crate digging in a digital world. Now this, it's limitless. Of course, you're going to get people that, you know, they have very rare vinyl pressings of samples and of old records that you can't find anywhere. And that's beautiful. But, you know, I'm a very big supporter of being able to make the best with what you've got. Okay. So if you don't have the luxury to go to a flea market or a vinyl record store and dig through, like, let's say you're starting off. Not everyone owns a vinyl, what are they called? Not everyone owns a record player. Okay? And not everyone really understands how to connect the digital or a record player properly into your DAW to record and sample straight off the record. Not everyone understands that. So in a digital world, you have so many options. I would say be very careful, you know, understand what you should or shouldn't do. It's kind of a rebel mindset when it comes to sampling. And I could go deeper on that another time. We'll see if I do more of these, but I like it. I like the digital thing because I think, especially somebody in my generation and prior, you know, they're so used to the online world. It's very easy to find something that you'll enjoy and maybe you can flip into something cool. So number 3, French house and why it still slaps. So what draws you to French house? I don't know. I love the textures. I love the weird, gritty, bit crush, phasery, funky loops. I could listen to for example, Intro by Alan Brax, and I think is it DJ Falcon? Yeah. No, not DJ Falcon. No. Fred Falk. Yeah, Fred Falk and Alan Brax. So Fred Falk and Alan Brax made Intro, and it's so good. I don't know how to explain it. To the bass line, to the very distorted, saturated vocal, which I'm pretty sure was because of the sampler that they used. They would pitch it up and down, and it would add weird harmonics and textures over it, and that's how you get that iconic French house sound. So I just like it. Okay, and I have roots in because of my parents and, you know, disco and funk, mostly from my mom's side. My dad's side's more rock and country and things like that. So Daft Punk, Alan Brax, Cassius, the legends and their influences. So for Daft Punk, definitely the catchiness of their loops. And if you listen to their samples, what they're really doing is they're making their own bass lines from their chops. And that's the key right there. Of course, it's very ironic because my biggest track is a track that was actually, it's a famous sample. It's not an original piece of work at all. I just created it because, like I said earlier, I want to create my own version of a sample that I like. And that's what I did. And I think all is fair, you know, like I like to hear new versions of music. I don't know why people get so worked up about it. I'm not claiming it's my track or my original idea or anything like that. So that being said, so my influence is like, for sure, Daft Punk was the sample base. Alan Brax, I don't know too much about him, apart from I really like his music. Anyway, moving on. How the genre has evolved and how you keep it alive in your work. I think most people believe that French house is dead. And I mean, you could argue, you know, there are other subgenres that are very similar to what French house is. You know, I'm talking about future funk, for example. Future funk, though, it's a bit different in terms of, you know, not only the visual aesthetic, but the whole idea is the same, you know, meaning it's sampling 70s and 80s funk records. And then, of course, you go into Jack and House, which is just a groovy version of house. And usually they sample disco and funk and soul, maybe even jazz records. You know, it's all over the place. But I don't think French house is entirely dead. A lot of people really enjoy it. It always gets played. You know, Music Sounds Better With You is a classic. Everyone knows that track. Everyone. Okay. One More Time gets played all the time. It's a good one. You know, I don't think, well, this is technically French touch, but I don't think there's a person in the world that would not know what Justice Dance is. D-A-N-C-E. That's a classic tune. Okay, how the genre evolved. Okay, I already did that. Okay, moving on. 4, letting go of making it. Ooh. Why you make music without expectation. I make music without expectation. Now I had to shift my perspective, you know. Of course, I had it in my mind that I had to be, you know, Mr. Superstar, to be successful in the music industry and things like that. And that's fine, you know, shoot high, aim high, you know, shoot for the stars. Always, never set your sights low, but always have a hint of realism. And what I mean by this is not think to yourself, well, it'll never happen. It's a possibility it could happen, man. But the problem with having expectations is that every achievement you earn, instantly, as soon as you achieve it, it doesn't mean anything to you because it's not over here. It's not this big. It's never going to be good enough. You're always going to be chasing that carrot on a stick. Okay? So the things that I have achieved now, 2011 version of me wouldn't have even dreamed about. Okay? That's all I'm going to say about that. Number 2, finding peace in the process, not the outcome. There you go again, finding peace in the process, not the outcome. I like how this algorithm, this AI, has structured that. Exactly, enjoy the process. Do not focus on the end goals. When you focus on the end goals, you get distracted. You're living too much into the future. You're not living in the present. You have to stay grounded. You have to understand that what you're doing right now, even if it's just making a loop, that right there, enjoy it. Get lost in it. Okay? What success actually means to me. I'm just going to rehash exactly what Armand van Helden said, and success is somebody who's, I might be misquoting. I don't have time to, as I'm recording this, to search up exactly what he said. I believe he said something to the effect of a person who is successful is somebody who is doing it and they're happy. So I'll let that sink in with whoever wants to hear that. 5, the corniness of gatekeeping. Interesting term. I don't think, first of all, there are gatekeepers. That's a legitimate thing. Let's say, for example, you're in a local scene and it seems as though maybe you're not getting your bag, or you're not getting the, you're not getting your time to shine, so to speak. That's not a personal attack. You know, if you haven't If let's say you have an established sound, you don't always fit in a specific sound. So my advice would be to create your own events, do your own shows, network, maybe network with some people and say, hey, I can DJ this style, and then just, grind it out that way. Okay. So my experiences with elitism in the music scene. I think that's something I'll touch on for another day. I've definitely experienced things like that, nobody's perfect. 2, being open and playful makes better artists. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Being open and playful. Okay, so yeah, just have fun with it. Like, look at Tyler, the Creator. He's a fun guy. He's hilarious. Yeah, look at Salvatore. Guy, I don't know how to say his name. He made that horse track that was released on Ausla. He's a character. An absolute character. Look at Pickle. Pickle Sounds on Instagram. Fun. That's hilarious. Like, he's not only does he make good music, but he's fun. Okay, advice for newcomers who feel intimidated. Don't go into it putting these people on a pedestal. They're just like you. Okay, like, they got up and brushed their teeth. They had a shower. They made their coffee. Okay, they're just like you. They started off just like you. Okay, so don't put them on a pedestal. There's no reason to feel intimidated. Stop looking at people as above you. Of course, there's nothing wrong with paying respect to somebody who's definitely earned their title, right? But usually people who have earned their titles do not shove that down your throat. So look at it as, for example, for me, when I'm speaking to anybody, whether you have 10 followers, whether you have 10,000, 100,000, doesn't matter. I speak to you like you're my equal. Okay? And the other thing you have to be careful about with that is do not expect you from other people. So just because I treat people that way doesn't mean other people treat me the same way. And what I could do is get upset about that, but see, that's expecting a certain behavior out of somebody. And I don't do that. That's not a good thing to do. So, peace and love. 6, being both DIY and professionally trained. Okay, so what audio school gave me versus what self-teaching did. So audio school broke down everything at a very objective level, which is extremely beneficial. It breaks down what a compressor is, what every setting is, attack, decay, ratio, release. Not decay. Decay would be... I'm sorry, guys. It's 1:42 in the morning. Okay. So attack, ratio, things like this. All of the parameters in a compressor. It breaks down why you adjust things. So it's very good to know. You learn signal flow through mixing consoles. You learn it through gear. You understand how to set up audio or set up a proper live show, okay? So it shows you the industry standard of how to do things as a working professional in music. Very, very beneficial to know. With self-teaching, the beauty about that is that there's so much freedom. Self-teaching allows a more creative way to look at things. Of course, when I was being taught in school, they did talk about how some mixing techniques these new guys use is a little bit frowned upon, like soft clippers on the master and distorting it and redlining it and things like that, not giving your mix headroom. Not a lot of people give headroom in their mixes. So things like that are a bit against the rules, if you want to think of it that way. There are no rules. The average listener does not care if you ran your mix through an audient. The average listener cares about whether or not the song is good at the end of the day. So self-teaching is sky's the limit. You have so much creative freedom. You get to see into the minds of other producers, which is amazing. The downside about all of this is they'll tell you, okay, yeah, you throw this compressor on, you throw that saturator on, you throw all of this, yada, 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 you adjust it like that. But they don't explain as to why they're adjusting the things, the parameters. I understand there are a lot that do, but there are a lot that don't too. And that's the problem with that. Why both paths matter and can coexist. Well, for one, I learned better file organization. I learned how to work with artists. I understand the ins and outs of pretty much any gear I get my hands on, so long as I have the time to look it through. And it gave me the confidence to really be able to be like, yeah, I understand that. Like that, this is what I do. And for the self-teaching thing, it just goes, whenever I hear somebody going out of their way to figure something out on their own, I love that because that means they don't depend on other people. Not throwing shade to anybody, but if anybody comes up to you and asks you, how do you do this certain thing? And depending on whether or not that person's like a really close friend, of course you could do what you want. You could tell the person right off the bat, but nobody told me these things. What did I do when I had this issue? I Googled it. So take the time to figure it out on your own. If you really cannot figure it out, then reach out. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so things producers overthink because of training. Going back to what I said before, headroom and clipping and things like this. I mean, listen to dubstep, brostep, and things of this nature. It's obviously distorting. Sure, there's probably a brick wall limiter on the master bus, but what can you do? At the end of the day, if it sounds good, it sounds good. Okay. 7, DJing, the age of algorithms. Ooh. Building a set that flows versus chasing trends. Building a set with flows. Generally, when I'm building a set, okay, so on a typical night out, if I'm doing an event or something, which I haven't been doing much anyways, usually I just put a whole playlist of songs that are relatively well-known and remixes of those songs, usually in the tech house, kind of clubby sounding genre. So I put at least 200 to 300 songs in there. So I have a lot to play with. When it comes to a festival, building a set, it's very good to have a general idea, at least for the first 4 songs. So for the first 4 songs, I like to build things up a bit slow, like maybe you definitely don't want to go banger after banger after banger, unless you're a headliner, I suppose. It's all up to you. The other important thing is to read the crowd. Chasing trends, I don't see anything wrong with chasing trends. We've all done it. I'm not going to pretend I didn't make Big Room House. I'm not going to pretend I didn't make Future Bass or Bass House, So number 2, okay, yeah. How you pick tracks, perhaps, this is what I'm going to. Okay, so at a festival, I'm booked as an artist, so I want to showcase my mind, my artistic vision. So for me, I really like funky rhythms and repetitive loops, builds, breaks, not too much. I don't like playing 8-minute songs. I try to cut that down to about, give each song at least 3 minutes of playtime, We got that TikTok mind nowadays. Why vibes matter more than perfection. This is true. Get it out of your head, mixing in key. I mix in key all the time. I'm entirely guilty for this. I love mixing in key because I'm a perfectionist when it comes to that. I'm not trying to say that what I do is the best mix or anything like that. It just personally bothers me when I could hear two songs being mixed and I'm like, those don't really fit that well, you know? Sometimes you can get away with it. For example, you're trying to, let's say you're trying to mix a song from E minor into E major. It technically, like if the root note is right, it could kind of work, but don't think too hard about it. Read the crowd, understand the energy. Excuse me. Tools versus taste. Why your DAW or plugins don't define your sound. This is true. You can make whatever you want in any DAW. Whatever you want. The entire Cross album by Justice, a lot of it was made in GarageBand. So you can make do with what you've got, man. How people can chase gear and still have no sauce. Exactly. I always say this, and I try to make it a point to say it as nicely as possible. Gear does not make the producer. Give a good producer a laptop, he can do a lot more than a studio full of analog gear. I'm telling you this right now. It's a fact. Developing your tastes as your most important skill. Oh, exactly. It's at the end of the day, you're making music for yourself. I understand as an artist and through a business outlook, it's beneficial to have people really enjoy what you're making. So keep that in mind for sure. But the funny thing about everything is, you know, I'll put songs out that I got sick of and people loved it, but I hated it. So it's like, it's not always about you. Think about it this way. You've heard that song 1,000 times. It's brand new to a new listener. Share it, you know? 9, humor and not taking yourself too seriously. Funny behind the scenes stories from gigs, production. Why music is meant to be fun. The liberating power of being unserious. Okay, so funny behind the scenes stories from gigs or productions. No, not too much. Nothing too funny or worth bringing up. I had a lot of good experiences though, you know, it's really fun to meet a lot of like-minded people and talk music, and every once in a while get to chat with another audio nerd. It's really cool. Really cool. The liberating power of being unserious. Well, it's liberating because it's being real. You know, you're not trying to impress, you're just being you. 10, what keeps you going? And this is where we're going to wrap up. After over a decade, what still excites you? I think what excites me the most is when I hear a new track and I love, say for example, the drums. I love how punchy that kick is. I love how well it's balanced with the bass line of the sample, if it's sample based at all. I love listening to that. It pumps me up and gets me ready. Like, yo, I have to make something. Like, not necessarily steal this flow or this idea, but definitely use this as a mixing reference. I love mixing references. That's what excites me. Finding a nice 4-bar loop or 2-bar loop is phenomenal as well. I could just, if it's hitting right, I'll finish a track in 2 hours. At least a very rough demo. What I'd tell 2011-year-old me. 2011-year-old. This guy's 2011 years old. Okay. So what I tell myself in 2011 is keep it up. Don't burn bridges. Okay? Don't take things personally. People are people. Some people are intentionally trying to hurt you. Some people are not. Okay? Get out of that victim mentality and just be yourself. How to stay in love with music without burning out. Give your ears a rest. Sometimes I like to dedicate an entire week just not listening to music, not making it, or anything. Whether I journal, watch movies, whatever, go about my day, daily routines, whatever, draw, anything. As long as you stay creative, go for walks, whatever. I think anybody who's been doing, who listens to music and loves music, I think it's impossible for you to fall out of love with music. Okay, so I think that about wraps it up, and I hope you enjoyed this. It's a nice little insight into the way my mind works, and a little bit of rambling. Maybe I'll edit in some music underneath or something. Like I don't know. Maybe I should just use some of the free edits I've done over the past couple of years on this Fraser project and see where it goes. But till next time, guys, take care. Thanks for listening.